Hey guys, today we're going to look at the War of 1812. So in the early 1800s, so during the time when John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison were president, France and Britain were still at war. So you remember how the French helped the Americans because they were fighting the British? Well, that fight is still going on even though the US was like, okay, we got our freedom, we're done with this fight for right now. And French and British ships kept capturing American ships and forcing the American crews, the American sailors, to join the war. This was called impressment. How do you think American crews felt about being impressed? How do you think they felt about being forced to join either the French or the British during the war? So the US finally got fed up with this. They said they would go to war if another American ship was impressed, if another ship had its crew stolen by the French or the British. The British didn't listen, they impressed another American ship, and the two countries went to war. This map shows you a zoomed in version of North America. The British control Canada in green. The Americans' land is shown in this kind of pinky orange color here. And for the first part of the war, the British were winning. They invaded from Canada. You can see them in red. First, they invaded by land, then they sent boats down and actually burned Washington, D.C., the new capital. Now, in the background, this is the White House you see burning where the president lives. How do you think the Americans felt after the British burned down Washington, D.C.? One thing to know about this, though, is there's a famous story about Dolly Madison, who was the president's wife at the time. The president, James Madison, had already left town, but she was still there when the White House got burned, and she helped save a lot of famous paintings and historical papers from getting burned up in the White House. She actually saved the most famous painting of George Washington. Now, eventually the Americans got their act together and started winning. They successfully defended Fort McHenry in Baltimore, Maryland, and their defense of the fort inspired the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem. That's the song you hear before baseball, football, basketball, like any sort of sports game, you'll hear this song before it. And it was about the defense of Fort McHenry. In December of 1814, the US and Britain signed the Treaty of Ghent, ending the war. In the treaty, both sides agreed to go back to the way things were before the fighting started. So pretty much the war solved nothing, and at the end of it, everyone just agreed to pretend that it never happened. But there was one catch. Back then, news traveled slowly. So, because the news took a while to get to all corners of the United States, one final battle happened in New Orleans, down in Louisiana. The British tried to invade the town, and an army led by this guy here, a man named Andrew Jackson, successfully defended the town. His army was made up of a combination of American Indians, people who lived in the town, a couple actual soldiers, and then some army guys he had brought with him. And for his defense of the town, he got really, really famous. We're going to remember him because he's going to come back later. His name is Andrew Jackson. And one thing to remember about him is he would fight over anything. Whether you had to fight or not, he was always willing to fight. And this battle is the one that made him famous. even though he fought and won it after the war already ended. Yeah, so that's it for today. I will see you guys later. Have a good day.